Hello everyone, back tuning into today's first video, doing JMA Friday for today's first video. So as always on a Friday, we're having a detailed look at the weather for the month ahead with the Japanese and CFS V2 models. So we'll go through the JMA first of all, then we'll have a look at the CFS V2, we'll see how the two compare. And we'll see what trends we can pick up for the rest of February and going into March. You can take us to the 8th of March. So we get to just to the beginning of meteorological spring with this update. And we'll see what the two models are showing for the remainder of the winter, very strange winter of 2018-19, and the beginning of spring 2019 as well. Just to say that coming up later on this afternoon, we'll have your week to 10 day video update as always. So that'll be with you later on this afternoon here at Gazzovids. We're going to start off having a look at the 500 millibar height anomaly flowcharts from the JMA from the North Pole view down. So this is the North Pole of the Northern Hemisphere just here. Mid-latitudes, Northern Hemisphere are around there. The UK is just there. These are broken down into weekly periods. The first week's period will take us from the 8th today through to the 15th of February. Blue is extrapolating to below average heights, which is low pressure. Yellow, orange and red extrapolating to above average heights, which is high pressure. So for the coming week, we've got below average heights in the middle of the Atlantic. Quite an unsettled looking scene out there. Above average heights to the north of Scotland and extending back into eastern parts of Europe. Quite a big ridge over there. So we've got the Atlantic winds coming in from off the ocean, and it looks rather unsettled as well. So I would say relatively mild and relatively unsettled conditions in the week ahead. Moving through to week 2, which takes us from the 15th through to the 22nd of February. We've got trough of below average heights deepening in the middle of the Atlantic. We've got this ridge strengthening over Scandinavia. So this looks like a real battleground type situation. The low pressure in the Atlantic is trying to feed in these mild Atlantic winds. At the same time, the high pressure over Scandinavia is potentially trying to bring colder winds from an easterly direction. There's bound to be weather fronts that are marking the boundary between colder and milder air, and depending on which air mass has the ascendancy, whether it's the mild westerlies or the colder east-southeasts, there is a chance of either rain or potentially even some snow coming through with that one. That could be a colder week from the 15th to the 22nd of February. And then we're moving through to week 3 and 4, takes us from the 22nd of February to the 8th of March, and we've got above average heights across Greenland, so there is a little bit of northern blocking up there, but it looks very unsettled from the Atlantic with this trough of low pressure coming into the UK, the jet streams coming in as well. It really depends how strong this ridge of above average heights gets over Greenland. So this is a 2-weekly anomaly, weeks 3 and 4. Potentially something like a fairly weak ridge in week 3, and then it strengthens into a much stronger ridge for week 4. If that's the case, it would start to force this trough of below average heights in the Atlantic southwards with the jet stream, and then could start pulling in colder air from the east-northeast. But as it is, I think that ridge, as far as the 2-weekly anomaly is concerned, as it is, I think that ridge is just a little bit too weak to force the jet stream south. So what we probably end up with is just rather cool and unsettled conditions with low pressure coming in from off the Atlantic Ocean. Let's have a look at the mid-latitude and tropical view next. So the British Isles is just here in the top right-hand corner of the chart as you're looking at it on this view. Reminder that we can't see the North Pole or Scandinavia. That's off the chart up here, but of course we just saw that view down. So week 1, 500 millibar height anomaly taking us from the 8th to the 15th of January, has low pressure in the Atlantic. High pressure is over here across eastern parts of Europe, but it does extend to the north of Scotland just there as well. Looks generally, it's a bit of a mess, it looks generally unsettled and quite mild in the week ahead. Temperature anomalies are forecast to be milder than average, above average temperature anomalies in the week ahead. Much of Europe looking very mild in the week ahead as well. And then the precipitation anomaly, so for far southern and western parts of the country, a little bit of above average with precipitation, but most parts of the UK actually coming out a bit drier than average. I think it's rather mild, unsettled, changeable week ahead. Week 2 looks like this, so the trough of low pressure in the middle of the Atlantic deepens, but also the ridge, and we can't really see it that well on this view, but the ridge across Scandinavia is strengthening. So this could be a real battleground sort of situation. The low pressure in the Atlantic is trying to throw up weather fronts and mild winds from the west. At the same time, the high pressure across Scandinavia is trying to bring in much colder east or southeasterly winds. Temperature anomalies with the JMA are holding up okay from the 15th to 22nd of February. They're above average. Notice much of Central Europe is cooling down, but only going to slightly above average. So it's a little bit of a cool down, but no sign of anything particularly cold. And then it's more unsettled as well, though. Week 2 precipitation anomalies are coming out rather above average, particularly so for Ireland, England and Wales. Scotland still a little bit drier than average. I think there is a potential for that to be a colder week, though, I have to say. It just depends how strong that ridge gets over Scandinavia and how much of an easterly feed we start to pull in. And then weeks 3 and 4 look very unsettled. Low pressures coming in off the Atlantic. There is some sort of blocking feature over Greenland, but as a 2-week anomaly, it's relatively weak. You might get some strengthening of that, of course, in one of the weeks, which would bring in some colder conditions. But overall, this looks like a very unsettled but relatively mild end to February. This is a big flip on what the JMA was showing last week, by the way, when it's generally quite cold for the 4 weeks. Temperature anomalies are milder than average from the 22nd of February to the 8th of March, and precipitation is going up. So it's a much more unsettled week, and precipitation is well above average. Plenty of rainfall as we end March and as we end February and go into March. Of course, there could be some wind potentially in that, depending on how strong the above average heights get over Greenland. Right, so this is how the CFS V2 compares. So again, these are 500 millibar heights. They're broken down into week periods. The first weekly period takes us from the 8th to the 14th of February. Below average heights in the Atlantic to the southwest of the UK. A ridge across eastern parts of Europe, and some above average heights, quite weak, across Greenland and to the north of Scotland. Overall, pretty much in line with what the JMA is showing, and you would expect a relatively mild and rather changeable week ahead from the 8th to the 14th of February. Now this is week 2. It takes us from the 15th to the 21st of February. Quite a big change here, and it is a bit different to what the JMA is showing. So we get this large area of above average heights developing, centred around Iceland, but stretched from kind of like Norway over towards Greenland. Below average heights are pushed well to our south and southwest, and so this looks like it could be quite a lot colder to me. This could be feeding in real easterly winds here in the 3rd week of February, week 2 for our forecast period. It looks like those easterlies could be coming in, kind of like north of east from that sort of area. If that's right, then that's going to be much colder, I think, as we're going into the 15th to the 21st of February, maybe even cold enough to bring snow to southern and eastern parts of the country from the east. That looks like winter bites back a little bit from the 15th to the 21st of February. Now we go through to week 3, which is the 22nd to 28th of February, and the above average heights are kind of like transferring to the northwest of Scotland and the south of Greenland. A deep trough digging down through eastern and southeastern parts of Europe, winter really biting through there. For us, we're probably still quite cold, but I think around the top of this ridge, we're probably bringing in a little bit more of an Atlantic influence. So I expect the wind is going kind of like from easterly as we have, or maybe even northeasterly as we have in week 2, to probably sort of northwesterlies to northerlies as we go through to week 3. Northerly will be a cold direction, typically, of course, but it probably modified quite a bit by the North Atlantic. Reasonably dry as well. And then we go through to week 4. This takes us from the 1st to the 7th of March. The above average heights then are through the middle of the Atlantic and still going towards south of Greenland. Quite a deep trough setting up across Scandinavia. That will be bringing in really cold air for them. For us, again, probably fairly chilly, but modified by the North Atlantic. Air's coming like south of Greenland, so there's a long Atlantic fetch. Probably quite chilly, but not overly cold. Probably cold enough for wintry showers in the north. Of course, if this ridge goes further north, if the ridge centres over Greenland, then with this trough deepening over Scandinavia, we'll pull down a direct Arctic northerly wind. But there's not much sign of that on that anomaly chart. I think overall we're bringing the air around the top of that ridge from the North Atlantic. So chilly, yes, but probably not overly cold as we begin March on that scenario. Temperature anomalies in the week ahead from the 8th to the 14th of February, close to average, not a big deviation, but if anything, possibly a little bit on the milder than average side. But then it goes colder than average in week 2, this being the 15th to the 21st of February, colder than average for much of the UK, cold than average for many central parts of Europe. This is the week when it looks like we're bringing in the easterly winds. Remember, the JMA doesn't really show that. What the JMA has in this week is kind of like a battle between high pressure to the northeast and low pressure out in the Atlantic. So the JMA does have that block, but it doesn't have it as powerful, as strong. It doesn't have us in that easterly wind like the CFS does. But of course, you only take a slight adjustment from the JMA to be in line with what the CFS V2 is showing. And then we go through to week 3. This is the 22nd, 28th of February. Close to average temperatures here. Still quite cold across most parts of Europe. A little bit more of an Atlantic influence in week 3. And then week 4, again, this is the 1st to the 7th of March. Close to average with temperatures. If anything, possibly a little bit on the milder than average side. Again, we are bringing in the wind from a North Atlantic source. So probably I would have thought quite chilly, but not overly cold, not like those easterlies that the model is hinting at for the 3rd week of February. Finally, precipitation. So week 1 precipitation from the 8th to the 14th of February is average to possibly a little bit above average, rather unsettled to start us off. Then it goes much drier. This is from the 15th to the 21st of February. It's when it's getting colder, you can get those cold easterly winds. They're cold, but it's dry in week 2. Of course, any precipitation that does fall, and this model will not be able to pick out snow showers developing off the North Sea in those easterly winds, any precipitation that does fall will probably be falling as snow because the wind is from the east or the northeast. Week 3 precipitation anomalies are still on the drier than average side, particularly for northern and western parts of the country. And then week 4 precipitation close to average. You'll notice the drier than average conditions are going more towards the southwest of the UK. That's telling us that the high pressure is slipping south and it's starting to allow those slightly milder winds to come in from the northern part of the Atlantic Ocean. So it's a little bit confused this week, JMA Friday, but I think overall we're probably hinting at some colder weather for the second half of February. How cold it gets, though, is quite uncertain. The JMA has completely backed away from what it had last week, which was for a very cold February. It's not showing that at all now. But of course, it may be overreacting, and it's possible that February could turn out to be colder than the JMA model is indicating. I don't think any long-range model is performing particularly well this winter. And putting the two together, it does look as though we're going to get some sort of high pressure building to our northeast sometime in the second half of February. How long it lasts, how much of an east wind we get, how cold those east winds are, all to be determined. But there could be more cold weather to come before this February is done. So I think the takeaway from the JMA, from JMA Friday this week, is probably more cold weather on the way for the second half of February. But how much, how cold it gets to be determined, and of course how long it lasts to be determined as well. March, very uncertain, probably going a little bit milder for the start of spring. Right, that's it for JMA Friday this week. We'll be back later on this afternoon with your week to 10-day video update. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.